Hello everyone, and welcome again. As for now, we are going to discuss about the Smokestack twins, the main protagonists of the 2025 film Sinners. One of the best vampire movies I have seen in a long time, and one of the best movies of 2025. Sinners, honestly, is completely something else entirely, especially since it combines vampirism, the struggles of the black Americans during the segregation, and during the struggles of the Great Depression, and even Celtic traditions all combined into one. And to my opinion, the Smokestack twins are perhaps the best role that Michael B. Jordan has ever played. In my opinion, even higher than Eric Killmonger from the MCU, which I've already covered. And in this episode, we're going to analyze throughout about them throughout the movie to better understand the Smokestack twins and how they became so different in their lives. And now, let's begin. The Smokestack twins were originally born under the names of Elisha and Elias Moore in Mississippi in the early 1900s. And all I can say about the lore of the movie is the fact that their mom died in childbirth and their father was physically abusive to them. And when these boys were teenagers, they set their house on ablaze and killed their father, indirectly speaking. They eventually were saved and raised by a kind white family who also had black relatives and pretty much raised them. Elijah married with a woman, a witchcraft practitioner named Annie, and had a happy relationship with her and had an infant daughter. But sadly, their daughter died in infancy to an illness, and this kind of ruined his marriage. Meanwhile, Elias had a relationship with Mary, the daughter of the said white family, and actually did try to be with her romantically, but in the end, it didn't work. And eventually, as their attempts at normal lives have failed, both brothers joined together in World War I and fought for the Allied forces, and killing Germans in the trenches. And after the war, they have moved to Chicago when they help Al Capone and other criminals in order to escape the US authorities. And here is where they became known as the Smokestack Twins, with Elijah taking the nickname of Smoke and Elias taking the nickname of Stack, the Smokestack Twins. And throughout the 1920s and the early 30s, these guys have become widely known throughout the US, especially due to their criminal behavior. But as the Great Depression hit the United States in 1929, this job has become significantly harder. And now, by 1932, the siblings have returned back to their hometown in Mississippi, reconnected with friends and lovers, and used all the money they made throughout their life of crime to buy a ranch in order to turn it into a place for all their people and their friends can come together to celebrate, to take a break from the madness of the world. And unfortunately, this thing was not meant to last due to two problems. One is the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, was led by the mayor of that town at the time, already planned to ambush and kill all of them. But the second problem, and the one bigger one, was none other than Remnick, an ancient Celtic Irish vampire who arrived in the United States and has turned many of them, including Mary and Stack, into vampires. And in order to turn all of them, obviously, in vampires and make them into a clan of sorts, as well as the fact that Remnick wanted their cousin, Little Sammy Moore, who is to do his musical talent, to use his music so Remney can reconnect back with his ancestors, with his people, technically speaking. And of course, because of this, Smoke and his friends and allies have all fought fiercely to defend Nasemi, especially since, as I mentioned, Stack has been turned into a vampire and this broke Smoke's act, but it was already obvious that Stack, unlike the other vampires, was very different. This guy actually resisted the Remnick to some degree, and eventually managed to gain his freedom to still having humanity. But throughout this whole ordeal, almost all of their friends have perished in the process, including Annie, his ex-wife. And now before we continue, we need to stop now and ask, are the Smokestack twins good or evil? And I put this question because of the fact that while it's pretty much obvious given the fact that these guys were already wanted criminals, it should be noted here that these guys pretty much never had a chance to begin with. These people, these twins, were abused, were forgotten, were abandoned, had failed love lives and marriages, and pretty much were traumatized in World War One, and as well as the fact that they once again through this whole pub, through this ranch, everything they tried once again to gain some bit of normalcy in their lives. But life always brings it back, more problems to them, whatever to be it vampires or KKK or anything. But at the end of the day, these guys and are genuinely good people. And while they made tons of mistakes, they still could be seen as heroes because Smoke has ultimately died as a hero defending the people he loved and reunited with his loved ones in the end. And Stack, despite becoming a vampire, was able to resist Remnick's influence and regain back his humanity to some degree. And he still mourns his brother to this day. And in the end, the answer is kind of both. These guys are both good and evil at the same time, but depending on the timeline of their lives. And in the end of the day, they pretty much won. Smoke managed to kill Remnick and most of his army and saved Little Sammy. Stack managed to free himself from Remnick's control and saved Mary as well. And Little Sammy gained his freedom from his father, as well as Smoke managed to take down the KKK and died right there and then. And with this, Smoke has ultimately reunited with Annie and his deceased daughter in the afterlife. As now Little Sammy managed to live on and became a famous musician for decades to come throughout the United States. And now, by 1992, 6 years after the whole ordeal, the vampire Stack and Mary have reunited with an elderly Sammy and offer him immortality so he can stay around, only for Sammy to reject it and decide to accept his death with dignity. And in the end of the day, this is kind of the story. Little Sammy eventually passed away in the 1990s, Stack and Mary are still alive as vampires, and Smoke ultimately died as a hero. So in the end, who were the Smokestack twins? And to be more specific, who was Smoke and who is Stack? They are nothing more but just a couple of misfits who found themselves constantly challenged by life. A couple of twins that found one another against the world and has went through as much hardship as anyone could have went through in their time. And a couple of twins in which one died as a hero and the other one has become an immortal monster with the love of his life. And a couple of twins that, in my opinion, could easily be seen as among the most tragic groups of protagonists, the most tragic protagonists in cinematic history. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give a like, share and subscribe everyone, and have a nice day.
Bert?
Oh, he's just resting. He's all better now.
Hey, baby.